What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about why tomorrow is going to be a wild day as we may have Donald Trump, our president, making some announcements about economic changes. I'm also going to talk about what the charts are suggesting. So just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Looking at SPY, okay, as you guys can see, we have a tendency of getting rejections between 608 to 610. We hit this resistance and rejected all the way down to 590. Then we bounced back up to 608 to 610, went back down to 590. Then we bounced back up to 608 to 610. Then we rejected again. So it's just a pattern going back and forth and back and forth. Now, what happened to the markets was the market started dipping, and then we got these announcements from Trump that he wants to announce some tariff increases this week. So whatever he says will affect the market a lot. So I'll break down what the news is suggesting. But so far, please keep in mind that there's a lot of manipulation in the way the market is moving. So let's talk about this. What's going on? As you guys can tell, there's a lot of volatility right now. Okay, there are these very, very rich people, very, very big institutions who are basically just trading the market back and forth and making billions of dollars in the process. And in doing so, they could be setting us up for a very, very big move. And here's one way you could kind of look at this. So when you look at the way SPY was moving, check this out. So SPY dumped really hard here. They broke this low here when we dumped all the way down to 574 in the middle of January, not because the market was going to crash, but because they were getting ready for a much bigger move up. They were getting ready for this huge pump right here, okay? That's what they were basically doing. That's why we dumped only to get this big breakout. So in this case, ever since that happened, the reason they pumped SPY up here was because they were getting ready to sell and dump it right back down. The same thing happened. Once we hit this low here, we got this wick here because they were getting ready to buy it back up. And that's all they're doing. They're just getting ready for these big moves. The reason they pumped us so hard last week, even after the tariffs came out, okay, was because they were getting ready for another dump. And that's what they're doing right now. So what I suspect is going on is we're getting ready for a very, very big move again. Maybe after Trump makes the announcements, if we do get more downside, we're looking for the 200 EMA at 595 to 590 is our main support zone. And then if this could hold, I believe that the move down is setting us up for a bigger move up, for once again a rocket right back up to the upside all over again. And we'll see if we surpass all-time highs this time around. Because the reason I say this is because when you look at ES, we're actually forming a flag right here. So what typically happens in these patterns, and you guys can actually see the pattern right here. So when you zoom out and look like this, what you'll see is that ES has been forming these patterns over and over and over again for many, many months. And what's going on is this is what is dictating SPY. It's very important to pay attention to both ES and SPX. This was our flag. Then we got a breakout, right? And I think that the same thing is essentially going on again. This is like our flag. And this was our breakout. And now we're forming another flag, just like this, which makes me wonder if we do end up coming back down to these lows, if we do get a huge rejection, are we just going to crash? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be a big crash. I think that it's just the same thing repeating all over again. And this is the pattern so far on ES that's been forming. So keep that in mind, guys. This is what I'm basically eyeing, at least for the markets for now. But that does not mean that for the short term, we're just going to bounce instantly. We could be looking for a little bit more downside. I'll talk about why that is and then what this could lead to as well. So I'll talk more about these charts in a couple of minutes. I just want to give you guys a little heads up about what's essentially going on in my view and how this will affect us. So that being said, what's happening to the markets? Well, tomorrow is going to be Monday, February 10th, 2025. At 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Consumer Inflationary Expectations Report. Might cause a little bit of volatility here and there, but it shouldn't be too crazy. Then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3- and 6-month bill auctions coming out. So get ready for some volatility once all this data is released. This may cause bigger moves and other factors like that, so make sure you guys are ready just to be safe. So look for some volatility around the 11 o'clock a.m. hour. And then we also have Mr. Trump. So Donald Trump has said that he is going to be making some new tariff announcements this week. We don't know exactly when, but one thing I want to say about Trump is that he's been, doing a lot of things very quickly, and he's very fast. He believes that what he's doing is best. Whether you agree with it or not, I completely respect your guys' opinions. But he is arguing that he has to get his work done as fast as possible, which is why many of these sources are saying that by Monday or Tuesday, within 1 to 2 days, he could be making the tariff announcements. Now, just the thoughts of his tariffs has caused some downside for the markets temporarily, and there was a chance he could cause a little bit more downside. Why is that? Because these tariffs will have negative implications on our economy for the short term. I went over all the details in my previous video, so please watch that if you guys want more details. But just keep that in mind. This is going to cause some contractions to our GDP. It's going to cause a big disruption in supply chains. And we just have to see which countries are involved. That's going to have a big effect on the markets. So Donald Trump says he's doing this for fairness and also to help the government make more revenue. He wants to charge other countries in his view. And we'll see which ones he tries to include this time around. Are they going to increase tariffs on Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam? These are some of the biggest Asian trade partners besides China, which already got their tariffs up. And then we also have India and then many other countries in the European Union. We have the UK, other countries like Ireland, Italy, France, and the list goes on. I mentioned in my previous videos that if you look at just one of these countries, like 4% of our trade comes from Japan, 4% of our imports. South Korea is 4%, Taiwan is 3%. So it seems insignificant. But when you add everything together, right, if you add Germany, plus the rest of these going all the way down to India, that makes up another 20% of our trade or even more than that. So you have to keep that in mind. That's pretty significant. So that's actually like closer to like 30%. So pretty crazy stuff. So we have to see who is Donald Trump going to include in his new policies. Is he going to increase tariffs on Germany? Is it going to be just Japan? What is he about to announce? And that's going to have a big effect on us. Most likely, whatever he says may cause a little bit of downside for the short term. Okay, the market may get a short-term negative reaction, but then that could be setting us up for another big bounce because the last time Trump announced the tariffs, we dumped like this. But then the news came out that they were delayed on Mexico and Canada, and then the market just made a full recovery. I'm sorry, it's right over here. Market made a full recovery. This time around, we could dump again with the tariffs, but then we should be making a big bounce soon once the market prices everything in. So I hope that's as clear as possible. For earnings, we have McDonald's and Monday.com announcing earnings on Monday before market open. That's tomorrow. Besides that, there's nothing too crazy coming out after close. On Tuesday, we have Shopify and Coca-Cola, not to mention Supermicro. On Wednesday, we have CVS Health and Reddit. And then on Thursday, we have Datadog, Coinbase, DraftKings, and a few more. So get ready for earnings, guys. We have some minor ones tomorrow morning, like McDonald's and Monday.com. Besides that, the fear and greed index is currently at fear. This might become a little bit more fearful as time goes on once the tariffs are out and sentiment shifts. And then we're also going to be looking to see what's also announced on momentum. Will it become more fearful or not? The put to call option ratio is at fear right now. We'll have to see if this becomes even more fearful. And we'll see what the VIX ends up doing as it's trying to break out. So what is my view of the markets? How do I think this is going to pan out? Here's my honest answer. I think that tomorrow morning, okay, there might be a small rebound because the market dumped really hard on Friday at the end of the day after these announcements have come out that Trump is going to announce more tariffs. So what's going to happen is look for a small rebound. Might just be between 2 to 3 points. We could get close to like 602 to 603. And then it depends. Does Donald Trump announce his new tariffs? He could do it at the end of the day tomorrow. He could do it on Tuesday. But eventually, I think that will lead us to dipping towards this 200 EMA at 595, if not down to 590 again. I think we're going to be looking for a move like this. But it's not going to be the end of the world because there is that gap at 584. So if we do lose 590, we're looking for a move down to 584 or so. But either way, whether it's 590 or 584, wherever we bottom, it's not going to last forever. It's going to be a temporary move down. Why do I say that? Look at the moves we had the last 2 months, okay? Pump, quick dump, quick pump, quick dump, quick pump, dump, pump. Like the market is just not going to dump for a long time. It's going to be temporary. And then there's going to be a very fast bounce right back up within a week. Within a week, it'll be right back up. And we're either going to be dipping to, 595 to 590 in this range right here, or we could go a little lower if things are extreme to 584. I could see that, but it's not going to be extreme, guys. We could be making a full recovery afterwards. It might just be a quick bounce, so just keep that in mind. There might be some temporary downside, but it's going to be just temporary. So that's what I'm seeing for now. Be ready for a temporary move down if Trump makes the announcement. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get later on. On the QQQ, same thing. Okay, notice what they're doing. Quick dump, quick pump, quick dump, pump, dump, pump, over and over again. So I think the history is going to repeat itself. We're dipping. We might rebound a bit towards like 523 to 525 again. And then if we get a rejection, maybe Trump makes his announcement. We're looking for a dip to about 517, if not below that. If that fails us, I think we easily dip towards the low 500s again. When everyone starts panicking, becoming fearful, this will bottom in the low 500s most likely and try to make a nice recovery right back up. Right? This aligns with what this is doing. Continuing to form this like inverse head and shoulders and just going back and forth between supply and demand. I anticipate the same thing is going to be happening to the QQQ, just to be very, very frank. What about the Russell 2000? Well, same thing is going on. We have kind of like a top that's forming up there. I think that this may dip a little bit more because of this. When you go to our daily chart, there's some gaps to fill. There's a gap to fill over here. There's another one over here at 220. So I think that Donald Trump's announcements of these tariffs could cause a temporary push and a dip all the way down to at least 223, if not 220 in that range. And then this is going to form a bottom, okay? Why is it going to form a bottom? Because we're forming a giant cup and handle. When you zoom out, maybe if I go to the weekly, it's a little bit more clear, but it doesn't matter. This is a cup. This is clearly a cup to me. We're forming just a small handle, whether we base in the 220s, even if we dip a little bit more, it doesn't matter. This will eventually make a full recovery as time goes on over the next couple of months, and then it's going to start to rally right back up to new all-time highs as we approach the end of the year. So it's still bullish. This is still very, very bullish. Short term, a little bearish with the new tariff news, sure, but that's another buying opportunity for the Russell. Just keep that in mind. Not financial advice when I say that. Let me just get rid of this. Give me 1 second, guys. Looking at ES, this is the pattern. It's very simple. I think this is what we're doing. We're just respecting this pattern right over here. So it's the same thing, right? The same thing is just repeating. We have this sideways pattern. This is our flag. We broke through resistance. So we broke structure right here. And we got the next leg up, right? Like this on ES. And then the same thing happened here. We got this rejection. And we got another rejection up here off this rising wedge. This happened on Friday. We may continue to dip lower. We may dip like this, rebound a little bit in the morning, and then Donald Trump's new tariffs could cause one more dip. Whether we hit these lows or make lower lows, I'd be fine, because this is not going to last. We're not going to just dump forever like this. We're going to make a nice bounce and then see another leg higher very, very soon. Possibly as we get closer to March. It may take a little bit longer to get it, but there's going to be another leg higher most likely. As long as we hold this support, I think that there's a good chance that's going to happen. So this is the pattern I'm essentially looking for, just to be very frank. But for the short term, like I said before, there might be a little rebound on ES tomorrow morning to retest 60.68 to 60.80. We might rebound just a little bit by about 10 to 15 points. And then we could be looking for a move lower once Trump makes the announcement of new tariffs. The low 6,000s could be coming or below, and then expect more volatility after that. For NQ is looking at something very similar. Inverse head and shoulders like pattern. We're also in a flag right over here. But it's the same thing. This might be dipping a little bit lower. I would love to see this dump so that this could get ready for a much larger move back up. But that's what I'm essentially anticipating, at least for now. So for the short term, okay, for the very, very short term, we're looking for a move up. Temporary move up to about 21,650 before this starts to dip lower towards the 21,400s. Please keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, same thing. Bitcoin's on a bit of a downtrend. Why? We had a high here, it came down, we had a lower high, came down, lower high, came down, lower high, came down. So you can see how this is just continuing to downtrend. We have resistance at 96,868 and 98,000. And we have the support right here on 95,800, not to mention 95,000 flats. So as we're consolidating, This might push up here and reject and just continue this consolidation phase as we hit 95,000. And we'll see if we get a bounce off of that later. But the new tariff news may cause this to temporarily dip to 95,000, if not below that. So just keep that in mind. Might be a little consolidation before we get a big bounce. There might be a small dip coming with the tariff news, but just get ready just to be safe. Now, Nvidia is very bullish. There might be a temporary dip depending on the tariff news. I don't know exactly what Trump is about to announce, but I'm eyeing a possibility of how like this is our left shoulder here. This is like our head, and then we could be forming like a right shoulder just like this before it tries to break out like that. So we could be forming a right shoulder on Nvidia. I think it might retest 125 to 127, maybe lower. If we're lower, it's going to be lucky. Because that could be a buying opportunity for this next run that's coming to come up to back to fill this gap very soon over the next couple of months. So keep that in mind. What I think is going to happen for the short term is Nvidia may pump a little higher for a little rebound move. It's very resilient, but then the Trump tariff news could cause a small dip on this before it starts to break out higher. But I do think it's very bullish nonetheless. Whether we get some kind of dip or not, it's very bullish and it's going to be running anyways. So that's my view of Nvidia. Tesla is looking a little bit weaker here. There was good news that's coming out. I don't know if many sources have kind of like verified this yet, but some sources claim that Tesla is seeing about 170,000 Model Y refreshes in their pre-orders, which is really, really good. So just keep that in mind. How I think this is going to go is we are on a bit of a downtrend, at least on Tesla, looking at the daily charts. And I think that's what could happen is this may dip a little bit lower, might rebound a bit towards 360 or so. So look for a move like this where it dips before it tries to rebound just temporarily. And then the Trump tariffs could cause this to dip one more time into the 340s before this thing bases very, very soon. We have another support right here. We love to base around the 350 area. There's a lot of consolidation. There's a big liquidity zone there. So we might be dipping closer to the low 350s before we see some kind of bigger bounce on Tesla. But a move like this is very possible once Trump makes his tariff announcements. That might be a little bit negative. And then this thing could be looking for a much larger bounce afterwards once we break structure. But this might see a temporary rebound, a little dip in a rebound before Trump's tariff announcement. And then once that's out, this might be dipping lower before we see another bounce. So just keep that in mind for Tesla. For Apple, same thing. This is looking a little bit weaker here, making lower highs. I think this is looking a little bit more bearish. So we're looking for a move like this where we rebound and then start dipping to about 226, which we have to hold. If we don't, we could be dipping to about 222. So just keep that in mind. For Netflix, a little bit weak trend is starting to develop. So we're very bullish, but this is starting to turn right here after the tariff news. Might be dipping to about 1,002, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. So I do see a temporary pullback coming. And then we'll see if buyers defend this again, but look for a small dip to 1,002 for now. For MSTR, we're very much just flats, trading sideways, a little bit weak here. We might be revisiting 320 flats, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. If we don't hold that, we could be dipping back down to 310. So look for 320. We'll see what kind of reaction we get as we're forming an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. So give this the time it needs. 310 could be where the 320 area could be retested before some buyers try to defend it. For Celsius, we had a falling wedge. We're starting to break here. I want to see it get back above 23 to really start bouncing. It might temporarily uptrend, but this depends on Trump's tariffs. So even if we do see a little push here, might dip a bit with the tariff news before it starts to break out like this. I'm looking for a move like this. It has potential to break even higher. May temporarily push and dip with Trump's tariffs before it starts to break out. So just keep that in mind. For Supermicro, we have a breakout from this wedge, which is looking pretty good. We'll have to see if we could continue from this trend. It's following Nvidia essentially. So if we do get a small dip like this, it might just be getting ready to push for 38 plus. That's what it's looking like. It looks very, very bullish so far. For Palantir, we're also very bullish. I'm looking at this resistance becoming support at 105. So it might dip to 100 to 105 in that area before it tries to bounce higher. But overall, it's very, very bullish trend. We're watching that continue as time goes on. For Rivian, this is starting to dip a little bit, so just keep that in mind, guys. It's a little bit on a downtrend here. I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to where this support happens to be, around 12.2 or below with the new tariff news. Then we'll see if we bounce, but just keep that in mind. SoFi is on a bit of a downtrend, making lower highs right now. This is still continuing to downtrend. So it's not looking the best. We could be drawing out a wedge on this. So I'll see if we can draw it out like this as well. But overall, I am seeing some weakness on SoFi. This may continue to downtrend in this falling wedge before we get a big bounce later, but we're not ready to bounce yet. So anticipate that this downtrend will continue into like the 4.5s, the 14.5s and the 14s flat. So keep that in mind. AMD, same thing. It hasn't broken structure. It's still looking kind of bearish. It might be dipping closer to the low 100s before it tries to bounce. So just keep that in mind. ARM, a little bit weak right here. It might revisit 158 to about 155 with the new tariff news. Then it could try to bounce afterwards because, like I said before, this has a very, very nice looking cup and handle that could be forming. As long as we don't end up losing like 150, I think that this is going to be fine for a small dip before it tries to bounce. For coin, we're technically on a bit of a downtrend. I wonder if we could draw a wedge here. I'm going to be watching to see if this could be formed. It's very possible that's what this is trying to form right now. So we'll see about that. We'll see if we get some kind of break or not. Might hit this resistance and then continue to downtrend for a little longer before it tries to break out from here. But I'm watching to see if this wedge is going to pan out or not. So just give that some time. But that's what I'm essentially looking for. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we just consolidate around this 270 area before it tries to break out later. The tariff news may affect it, so get ready for a small dip. On Amazon, it might dip lower towards like 224, and we'll see if buyers defend it or not. On Meta, this might be retesting 704 before it tries to bounce. Look for a small pullback on Meta. It looks like it's going to turn here temporarily to 704 or below before it tries to bounce again. Microsoft, a little bit weaker. This is going to be retesting 408s to the low 400s, like 405 or below before it tries to bounce. Google, same thing. It's rejecting here, so we'll have to see if this could hold support. Might dip towards 183 to 184, and we'll see if buyers defend, so give it some time to develop. On GameStop, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. This is forming like a wedge, though. That's something I really like about this chart. There's a possible wedge. That could actually be more bullish if this ends up holding its key support. That's going to be a really, really good sign. So give this the time it needs, especially as more buyers end up developing. So this could get a breakout soon, but for now we're on a bit of a wedge. We're going to continue to dip, most likely towards like 23 flat, and then we'll see if buyers defend this. So give it some time. Same thing with AMC. I think AMC is in a very similar place. Technically, it's on a downtrend. It might retest 3 flat before it tries to bounce, so keep that in mind. DJT is going to react to the tariffs. We'll see if it comes back down to about 30 before it tries to bounce, so just keep that in mind. The VIX is bullish. It has a tough resistance here at 16.7, might dip here before it tries to break out higher, as there might be a pullback coming to the markets. But then eventually the VIX will form a top, and the VIX will be coming right back down. Every time it gets close to 20, it just rejects. So as it gets close to 18 to 20 again, it might push a little higher temporarily and then get a big rejection as time goes on. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with the 10-year. This is very flat. We'll see how the tariffs affect this. Same with the dollar. The dollar is trying to push here, which could be bearish for the markets. So we'll see, just to be safe. With that being said, guys, my view of the market is simple. We might rebound tomorrow morning by a couple of points. So SPY might retest 602 or so. But then there could be a big rug pull with Trump's new tariffs. So get ready for that. It's just a temporary move. It's not going to last forever. So please be ready just to be safe. And then we'll see what that leads to, at least moving forward for us. Might be a temporary move down, getting us up and ready for another move back up. So keep that in mind. Might be a temporary move down. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, and I'll be back very soon with another update in just not a couple of hours, but in just about less than a day from now. I'll be back. So I thank you for listening, guys. I'll see you guys in less than a day before the market opens for another update. Until then, have a good one. Enjoy the weekend, and peace out.